Nice vlog entry, Jan. You always have something interesting to say when you have time to say it. Uh, I wish I knew how to put so much information within the space of 9 minutes. Doesn't seem to be one of my talents. So, uh, I'm going to try to pick three retro gaming choices that I would recommend uh, to those who have the capability to play these games still. Um, I think my first choice would have to be, I'm just going to say, Sid Meier's Pirates. Not the new one, but the old one on the Commodore 64. Haven't played the new one, so I don't know if it's a worthy recreation of the former game. Uh, Sid Meier's Pirates was educational. You start out, I believe, as a character, possibly one who gets out of prison, and you have to build up your resources. The game is set in the Caribbean, so when I was in the army and staying warm in the barracks in Alaska, I was playing this game, and even if it was only on a virtual map with comparatively crappy graphics, I still got to pretend I was sailing around Florida. Some of the interesting aspects of the game were the combat system. For example, if you wanted to take a town, you could bombard it with your cannons, and this required some strategy and coordination, but mostly some thinking was involved because you had to sail possibly into the wind at times, and you had to know how to face your boat so as to travel in a given direction against the wind. Um, uh, how shallow the water level in any given area was a factor, because some of the larger boats weren't able to uh, go into the more shallow areas without grounding themselves or beaching themselves. And but I found the actual land combat, when you disembarked your troops and had to go up against a town or a city's forces, I never could get the hang of that. My land forces, or I guess naval forces, when they faced ground forces, they always seemed to get their butts kicked. Um, some of the things I found really neat about the game were when you would find a map for lost treasure, and it would show you just a portion of the more detailed close-up map, and you would have to figure out where that was in the Caribbean, and then sail there and then dig up your treasure. Another interesting aspect was finding long lost family members and relatives, and putting your family back together. There was a bit of a courting system in the game, where depending on how successful you were, that influenced your chances for successfully wooing one of the any particular island's young maidens. Um, anyway, so playing that game, I got to know the various islands in the Caribbean, something that I did not do while living in Florida. Uh, Another game I would have to recommend would be Rainbow Six on the PC, Rainbow Six One, because even though the graphics weren't that great and the sound effects seemed very repetitive, uh, the immersion in that game was incredible, especially uh, on the oil rig, for example, or in the Congo. Uh, in this game, it wasn't like Quake or Doom, previous games. It was a totally new experience. It was a shooter that was meant to be realistic and to depict um, the special forces of the late 90s. And in that way, it was unique. And the damage system tended towards realism. And the suspense provided by the soundtrack, though I like to play with the music off, really heightened the experience. So if you have an old PC where Rainbow Six One runs well, that's definitely a game I would play. My last choice, I think, would have to be more current. And I haven't given a whole lot of thought to these choices, but these are the ones that hit me. So this last choice would have to be No One Lives Forever by, I think, Fox Interactive. At least they're the publishers. And I think it was actually developed by Monolith. This was one of the most intelligent action shooters I'd ever experienced, and some of its innovations seem to have made their way into Rainbow Six Vegas. For example, the way terrorists would have conversations about their line of work or just about anything, and the conversations often would be of a somewhat humorous nature, but you could interrupt those conversations at any point in time, either by making yourself known or by engaging these enemy troops in combat. And that was something I'd never experienced in any other shooter until No One Lives Forever. The color used in decorating the maps in No One Lives Forever, just beautiful. The soundtrack, the music, really set the mood, and but the various sorts of gameplay you would experience in the game were just incredible. For example, jumping out of an airplane without a parachute, a la Moonraker, and having to retrieve a bad guy's parachute while you were busy shooting at hostiles who were coming after you through the air, skydiving. Great game.